this morning I'm going to make some Repashy Superfoods, but we're specifically going to talk about how we use Repashy to add a supplement to the food for the fish. There are really only two times you really need to add a supplement, if at all. One is if you want to deliver a medication to the fish, and second is if you want to add some color enhancement. Repashy Superfoods come with all of the nutrients and all the vitamins they need. Adding extra vitamins or something else that's nutritious really isn't necessary. Some customers have said that they are looking for a way to make the food more palatable, so they're adding things like garlic, or they're adding some brine shrimp, or they're adding some other types of foods to it. That's completely up to you. But with all the different varieties of Repashy, we have found that we can usually find a type of food that is palatable to all fish. So all we're really going to talk about today is talking about using Repashy to deliver medications or to deliver a color enhancer. Okay, so I'm going to make some medicated food, and I'm going to use two medications in the first batch. The first thing I'm going to use is some metronidazole. This is 1/4 teaspoon of metronidazole, and I use this to treat fish for internal protozoan parasites, namely hexamina, which causes a lot of bloat. It can also cause some problems in catfish and plecos and cichlids and all sorts of fish. Metronidazole is pretty easy to use. It's very heat resistant, so you can mix it right in with the boiling water and it's not going to cause a problem. I'm also going to use some Praziquantel. Praziquantel is a dewormer. It kills worms internally. It also kills flukes. Whenever I get new fish imported from the wild, especially dwarf cichlids and plecos and cory cats, and sometimes when I get fish from Southeast Asia, really more of those dwarf cichlids, and definitely rams, I use both of these medications during quarantine in order to clean them out of any parasites. I have found that these steps really help the fish to survive longer in the store. I'm going to start, and I want to make a batch of shrimp souffle. So I'm going to start with 1/3 cup of shrimp souffle. And I'm going to put it in there, and then I'm going to take my medications. There's my metronidazole, and it goes. Here's my Praziquantel, and it goes. I'm going to take a whisk, which I forgot to get out of the drawer, and I'm actually going to stir all that up really well before I actually make the food. I'm going to put my hot water back on the burner. I'm going to make sure that it gets nice and hot. I need to get my 1 cup measuring cup out too. So we're going to wait for the water to boil, and then we'll mix the food up. Okay, there the water is boiling now. So I'm going to measure 1 cup of boiling water and pour it immediately into the food. Then I'm going to whisk. Get it all mixed up real well. And then I'm very quickly going to pour it into a mold. You can scrape it out to get all that goodness in there. Now I can take my shrimp souffle with the medication in it, and I can set it aside and let it harden. Once it hardens, it's ready to go, and we'll talk about how to feed it when we get to that point. I'm also going to make some food with some antibiotics in it. This is crystalline erythromycin, and I use it to treat wasting disease in plecos and in corridors catfish and any other fish that kind of gets that body wasting away disease that's not cured by the anti-protozoan or the dewormers. I've had some pretty good luck doing this, and here's how I do it. The thing you have to be careful about is that the antibiotic, this erythromycin or any other antibiotic, is not very heat resistant. So if it gets too hot, it'll be denatured and it won't work anymore. So I've had my water on. It's going to come to a boil pretty quick. Here I have 1/3 cup of the meat pie, because that's what the plecos I'm feeding like to eat. And then I'm going to add to that 1/4 teaspoon of erythromycin. But this time, instead of adding the medication before I make the food, I'm going to make the food, get it stirring, and I'm going to keep stirring it until it starts to thicken up. As Repashy thickens, it cools, and it cools very quickly. So it's getting a little bit thicker now, but I'm going to wait until I actually see the whisk start dragging pieces of food around, so it's really getting kind of lumpy. It's starting to get to the consistency where it's starting to set, so I'm going to add my medication, and I'm going to stir it in. And then I am very quickly going to spatula this into a mold before it sets entirely. You can see it getting pretty firm just as I get finished there. Not as pretty as the other molds, but at least it has the medication in it. And we'll talk about. The most common questions I get about using medications are about proper dosages. Each medication formulation is slightly different, so I use dosing based upon manufacturer recommendations and publications that are available on the web. To get exact dosages for your specific needs, you may want to consult with a veterinarian. Since I am not a vet, I am not going to share with you exactly how I dose. I would hate for what I do to be the wrong thing for your situations. This is the one that is not eating, right?
Yeah, right. And it's sick, and that's why it's not eating. Which one? But that's Tyrannochromis. That one will eat.
Right.
That's the one up. That's probably just up. That's the one that's not eating, and it'll bite it. It just won't eat it.
Enriched. You can use it if we can get that. If we could get that one to eat, you could.
Well, he's got to be medicated.
Yeah, that's just it. You could
Right.
use the food to medicate it if he would eat.
Oh, I see. Right.
Because you mix medication
Right.
Using medications in fish tanks should always have a specific purpose. One of the problems in the fish industry is the overuse of antibiotics. But when a problem is clearly identifiable, the use of medications is warranted. Treatment is best done in a quarantine tank, but if that is not possible, using medicated Repashy food at least gives you the opportunity to target the medication to a specific fish. Even when only one fish in a colony is clearly ill, it may still be a good idea to treat all the fish in the tank at the same time.
There they go.
Medication can be administered to a single fish in a group by carefully placing easily eaten pieces right in front of it.
How are you, Bill Crossway, doing?
Very well. I've got one with a bad eye. Everybody else is fine. There's 10 of them in there, believe it or not. So.
Using Repashy gel foods as a way to administer medications is just one more advantage of keeping some on hand. There are other ways you can use Repashy food as well, such as supplementing for color enhancement, but that is a topic for a future video. Until next time.